Okay, great, we make up the classics. So we are going to talk about the ways in which to measure fabric. This comes in play a lot when you either receive fabric from Fabric Stache or another group, or if you buy fabric on the buy-sell trade. It's really important to know what the different edges of the fabrics are, what the different ways you can cut the fabrics are, to make sure that you're getting the right measurements and you're selling people the right measurements. So we're going to pretend that this is a yard of fabric in front of us. It is actually a fat quarter of Shannon's green stars. So we are going to pretend that this direction is 36 inches, and this direction will vary depending on the fabric. Some fabrics are 50, 54, 60, 70. Okay, so this side of the fabric over here is the selvage of the fabric. If I was using a full actual yard of fabric, this would also be a selvage edge. A selvage edge is the manufacturer edge. That is the side of the fabric as they're printing the fabric on the big rolls. That is the side of it. The cut edge will be at your top and your bottom, and that is the measurement where somebody is cutting it. So if you go to Joann Fabrics, or in this case, if you buy a yard of fabric from Shannon or Jackie, you will be buying 36 inches this direction. So the measurement from salvage to salvage varies on the print. So 1 yard of fabric is 36 inches by width of fabric. Okay. So now to cut a half yard of fabric, you go again to Joann's to get a half yard of fabric. We don't sell half yards, but it's good to know what they are. If you go to Joann's, buy a half yard of fabric, what they're gonna do is they're gonna take and they're gonna cut it right down the middle right here. So I'm gonna fold that so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like while it's cut. That right there is what a half yard of fabric would look like. Selvage to selvage, and then it would be 18 inches this direction. Okay, now for a fat half. So this is a half yard, which is a nice skinny long piece. A fat half is gonna be the same square inches, but fat. So instead of cutting it here, we're gonna cut it here. You can actually see that fold line in the fabric. And when you cut it there, it's then gonna look like this. This is the same amount of fabric as you get in a half yard, but it's done in a fatter proportion. So that's literally what fat stands for, is that it's a fatter measurement. The benefits of a fat half over a regular half is that some people are doing like a front panel of a t-shirt or a pair of pants, and they need a larger measurement. With a regular half yard, they're good for things like quilting. You know, maybe you could do a purse that's only max at 18 inches. But so there's definitely limitations to doing certain measurements depending on what you're making. So half yard, fat half. Always remember, fat halves are fat. Now, if we were doing a quarter yard of fabric, so once again, here's our yard of fabric. A quarter yard of fabric, I didn't think of grabbing another ruler. A quarter yard of fabric, if you go to the store and buy a quarter yard of fabric, it's gonna be, if a half yard's right here, a quarter yard's gonna be right here. So you're gonna end up with a strip of fabric. This is even more limiting because it's so skinny. Okay, so just for a visualization again, I'm gonna go ahead and fold it. If that was a regular half yard of fabric, then that is a quarter yard of fabric, okay? And now there's fat quarters of fabric. Okay, so if here's a yard, we're gonna do a fat quarter. We're gonna fold it in half. Now we have our fat half, and then we're gonna fold it again, but up, and now it's a fat quarter. So, unlike the regular quarter yard that was really skinny, we now have a nice bigger piece, so you can actually use it for something. And in the case of an actual fat quarter, sometimes with knit fabrics, you can use them for things like shirt panels and little kid pants and stuff. So, one of the things that's discussed a lot is, what are the measurements of a fat quarter? What are the measurements of a fat half? Now, there's really only one definitive answer, and that's only one direction, which is that a half yard is 18 inches cut that way. A half yard, a quarter yard is gonna be 9 inches this measurement. A fat half is gonna be 36 inches that direction. and a fat quarter is going to be 18 inches this direction. The hard part comes in when we talk about how wide is a fat quarter. And now with the knit fabrics that we sell here at Fabric Stache, the knit stretches side to side. So that's the easy way to tell if you get a pre-cut piece of fabric to make sure which direction it was cut. With Fabric Stache fabrics, like I said, they can vary from 54 inches up to 70 inches. We tend to get more prints up at the higher measurements, but there's not always a definitive answer. But we'll go ahead and say 70 inches. If we are talking about a 70-inch piece of fabric, then that would be 35 inches wide for a fat half. Half of the width of the fabric would be a fat half. And the same goes for a fat quarter. It would be half of the width of the fabric. So with Fabric Stache fabrics, you'll be expecting a fat half to be 36 inches tall by 35 inches wide, and a fat quarter to be 35 inches wide by 18 inches tall. And we don't do cotton wovens at this point in time, but a cotton woven fat quarter, cotton wovens tend to come in 44-inch width. So for cotton wovens, a half yard obviously would be 18 inches by 44. A fat half would be 36 inches tall by 22 inches wide of woven fabric. And a fat quarter of woven fabric would be 18 inches tall by 22 inches wide. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to go ahead and ask in the comment section. And if I make one day's person better, I've done good.